One of the hardest things about taking care of mom as she continues to decline from dementia is accepting the fact that she's declining and that there's nothing that I can do to stop or slow it. For a long time, I didn't want to accept it. I did what I had to take care of her as best as I could, all the while refusing to acknowledge the fact that her condition continued to go downhill despite my best efforts. But no area of her care forced me to face the reality of the situation more than her bathing and toileting times. To be honest, it was the one area of her care that I really did not want to do. Not because it was physically difficult, but because to me, this was the last stage of independence being lost. Thinking that my mom would have never wanted me to see her this way. To be honest, the first few times, I cried bitterly while I bathed her, thinking why did this have to happen to us, and just wishing with all my heart that things weren't the way that they were. But over time, bathing times have now become a time of cathartic reflection, and this extremely vulnerable intimacy has really shown me how deep my love is for her, and all of that because of how deeply and completely she loved me all these years. You see, growing up, I was always a mischievous boy, always getting into trouble, and always getting dirty in the most creative ways. But no matter how much trouble I got into or how dirty I got, Mom was always there to pick me up, to clean me up and care for me however I needed, and to hold me and love me no matter what happened. And thinking back, there were so many instances where I literally got in over my head, and Mom was always there to clean me up. I still remember the house that we lived in Taiwan before we came to the States, and the street that we lived on. There were these deep 2-foot wide gutters that went up and down the entire street and around to the back side of the homes. They were all entirely uncovered and often smelled really bad, and the only way to get from your house out to the street was to walk over little concrete bridges that were in front of each home. Our kitchen had this door that faced the back of the house that we never opened. It opened straight to where the gutter ran around to the back of all of the houses on our street. Basically this extremely narrow alleyway that could barely even fit one person that just had the gutter running down the middle of it. And sometimes I would see or hear other people open up that back door of their kitchens and dump their kitchen waste and kitchen trash directly into the gutter. It was the closest thing to a cesspool that you could possibly imagine. So one day I got the bright idea that I wanted to find out how far that alley went and where the gutter eventually emptied into. So I went to the back of the first house at the end of the street where the gutter began and proceeded down that alleyway, straddling the gutter with 1 foot on each side. I hadn't even made it 15 feet into the alleyway when my foot slipped and I fell into the gutter, literally going in over my head, even getting some black trash juice into my eyes and mouth. I crawled out of there crying, running back home down the street, literally covered head to toe in black gutter soup, with all the neighbors coming out to see what all the noise was just to be met by the worst smelling gutter juice kid. But that's when Mom came outside and saw me. She hosed me off real quickly and then took me inside and gave me a nice hot bath. I remember distinctly her being close to me and not being afraid to touch me even though everybody else was staying far away because I smelled so bad, and bringing me so much comfort after such a traumatic experience. But despite this, it seemed like these lessons didn't really stick with me for all that long. At the end of that same street, there was a concrete koi pond that I loved going to go look at the fish. And obviously for me, looking by itself was never enough. And so even though my parents told me not to and that looking was enough, I'd always try to climb on the rocks to touch the koi. And you'd think that after falling into the gutter that I would have learned my lesson, but that just wasn't the case. And so a short while after the gutter incident, I fell into the koi pond and got covered with algae, having to do the same crying walk of shame back to the house and having to be cleaned up by Mom all over again. Incidents like these when Mom needed to clean me up continued even as I got older. You'd think that by 4th grade I would have learned when to know I needed to go to the bathroom, but that wasn't always the case. And I remember one instance at school where I realized I had to go number 2, but I thought I could hold it until I got home. But that was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and so by 3 o'clock when I had to walk home, I was quite literally bursting at the seams. The walk home from school was only 7 small neighborhood streets, but by the time I turned the corner onto my street, the situation was dire. My stomach was hurting from holding it all day, and finally I just could not hold it anymore. And so I pooped, right in my pants as I was walking home. I still had some distance to walk, to contemplate my life decisions, and so by the time I got to the front door, I immediately saw Mom and reported the situation to her, telling her that I couldn't hold it and had to go in my pants. And just like before, she graciously cleaned me up, wiping down what she could and then taking me for another warm bath, and making me feel better about the accident I had made. So I could go on and on with more stories like these, but the fact is, as time has gone on, I wouldn't trade this time that I have connecting with Mom in this way for anything. I take pride in this level of care that I can give her, and I get so much peace knowing that I'm giving it my absolute best, knowing that that's what she deserves and that's what she's given me in the past. And in a strange way, while I'm bathing her and I'm reflecting on all the memories, it really feels like I'm pouring my soul directly into hers as she's poured into mine. And so these days, bathing Mom has really become this very unique experience, this juxtaposition of very opposite feelings. I feel sobering sorrow and pain, but at the same time deep-seated peace and comfort knowing that she's receiving the best level of care that I could possibly give her. And so this dichotomy of feeling this deep defeat by this horrible disease, but simultaneously this enormous victory in returning this profound love and care to her, just experiencing these completely polar opposite feelings of vulnerability and nakedness, but intimacy and bonding with Mom in this raw and private way. It's really led me to this place where I appreciate and cherish these moments more than I could have ever imagined. And even though I will continue to wish with all my heart every single day that things weren't like this, I will continue to be grateful for having had a mom like her. There's nothing I want more than to give back.